in terms of not being able to move forward with a big win in this kind of situation. It's disheartening. It sets us back, but we will get over it. When we step on the field today, we will be over it. I'll cover the statistical part of the game and the goals with them. And you know, when you look at the game, you look at the final score. You know, there's obviously reasons for how it played out. Some of the reasons are controllable. Some of the reasons are not controllable. The second half was a complete letdown in terms of how we played, how we operated. Not so much in terms of effort, but more so in terms of personnel on the field. At halftime, statistically, we led in almost every category. It was a football game. The second half, it was a meltdown, and I do attribute some of that meltdown to personnel on the field. You know, Quentin went out after 11 plays in the ball game, and in my estimation, the best linebacker in the MAC, maybe the best defensive player in the MAC. Obviously, there's other great players around, but he was named MAC East Player of the Week 3 times in 6 weeks, in 6 games, and so obviously that tells you how respected he is throughout the conference. In reality, our top 4 linebackers were out of the game for a share of the time, and some of them most of the time in the second half. Blair playing with 2 injuries, didn't finish. You look at Chad Moore playing with a cast on his wrist, and also had an injury at halftime, and still tried to continue to play with that injury, and you know, couldn't operate effectively. Javon, playing hurt, had to be pulled out of the game at a point in time. So I guess what I'm saying is a lot of young linebackers were in the game, and obviously in the second half, the fits didn't play out the way we'd like it to play out in terms of stopping the run. They had 6 what we call explosive runs that accounted for 281 yards of offense, all coming in the second half. In the first half, you know, total yardage wise, we led, and in terms of rushing yards, I think they were ahead of us by 4 yards. They had 14 carries for 29 yards, and so I think we showed that we had the ability to maybe be a huge factor in this game and the outcome, but as it played out, that was not the case, and so you know that's disheartening. But you know, we will move on. We got to get prepared for a very good Buffalo team in our mind. You look at them offensively; they've got eight players back from their starting 11 from last year. I don't think they have a lineman in their program that's not over 300 pounds offensively. I know all their starters are and their backups are. So they're a big, physical football team. They have 2 receivers, one 6'5", one 6'4". They got a quarterback with 34 starts. Their running backs are big, physical running backs. So offensively, they'll present a challenge, obviously, and a big challenge. Defensively, I think they move well. They are guys that are physical. They'll come up and challenge you, show you some movement. So, you know, I think will be a a very interesting ball game in a lot of different ways. I think mentally we'll be very well prepared to play the game. Hopefully physically we'll be ready to go.
You said there were things you could control, things you couldn't control in the second half. Saturday, I suppose the injury situation was something you couldn't control. What were the controllables that you guys didn't get done against that second half execution?
Yeah, when you have young players in, you're still counting on them to fill gaps and play at a level that demands the game be played at when you're on the field. And most young guys take time to come along and develop. The one call I would not take back in terms of going for it on fourth down. They're a team that's capable of scoring a lot of points on a lot of people, and so we need to find a way to score more points. And so trying to keep ourselves on the field and get some early points on the board was, I think, important to us. So, in terms of controlling things, I don't know. I thought our players, when they got down, responded well, and so that's, I don't think, a negative. I thought we could have tackled better, so maybe we just need to work more on tackling. We had been a good tackling football team, but at point in times in this game we did not tackle very well. I think we could have went deep more on them, and so I think that needs to be looked at. We've I guess in general just need to make sure that we've got all bases covered going into the game, and in all honesty we felt we were prepared well. I thought the guys worked hard. We had probably the best Thursday and Friday practice that we've had all year, and so I think that reflected some in the first half. So certainly don't discredit the players for anything that went on. I thought they played hard. I think they really prepared to play a good football team. Some of the things that happened were somewhat out of their control.
You mentioned the injuries to the linebackers. What are the statuses on those 4 linebackers heading into this week?
3 of them are very questionable. 1 of them's out.
You mentioned Bowling and White being out for at least a few weeks on Saturday. Do you view either of them as having their seasons in jeopardy at this point?
We'll know more from MRIs, which will take place this week. Best case scenario, a few weeks.
Coach, offensively, AJ Ouellette hasn't had a lot of touches the past few weeks. Is there any particular reason why we haven't seen him get as many carries?
Well, we've been operating out of different packages, and we're trying to put Daz and Poppy on the field at the same time, and so in doing that, that eliminates another back being in there, and so his carries would be down with that scenario. The thing that is a huge plus is he's so team-oriented, that every time he steps on the field, you get his best. Never has once complained about his rushing numbers being down, and he's the kind of guy everybody looks for as a coach to be on your football team. He's a tremendous leader. He was that as a true freshman. He is that as a sophomore. For us, he's got total respect from the coaching staff, total respect from the other players, and there'll be times when he will get his carries, but with the different packages we've been using, and we've been up in explosive plays, and so that needs to, that's a positive for us, and some of that has been from that package of those two guys being on the field.
Are you still going to go with multi-back packages now, where maybe Malik Maroon could slot in for Poppy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are going to, continue to develop a two big back kind of an offense, as well as an explosive kind of an offense with Daz now.
You've been at Buffalo. What can you tell us about Lance, and what did you see signs when he worked for you in Nebraska that he was going to be a head coach at this level one day?
Mm-hmm.
I know it was a long time ago, but
Yeah.
anything stick with you about the time you two worked together?
Yeah, that's it's not a surprise to me that that he's made jumps, and you look at what he's all about in terms of a person and a coach. I think he's a guy that's very thorough, and so he's not going to be out-coached. He's not going to be outworked. He's that type of personality. I think he's a no-nonsense guy with players, and so he's going to have them in position to play their best football. And so I got a lot of respect for Lance in working with him, and then also seeing what he's accomplished over his career.
He worked with you, and Jim and Tim both, I think, were in that same office at that time. Any concern? He knows how you guys tick. He knows how you like your coffee. He knows how you think. any extra? Again, like I said, it's a long time ago, but he didn't seem to have some inside track on how you guys operate.
Yeah, he does, and I've got a pretty good track on how Lance operates. And we're good friends, and I think there's good respect there in terms of our approach to the game of football and working with players and developing the best out of young men. And so I think there's good mutual respect there.
How do you like your coffee?
Black, just not touched up at all.
No nonsense.
Is Buffalo in kind of a similar situation? I know they just lost 51-14. Do you think for both teams it's kind of like correcting the wrongs from previously?
I can't speak for them, but I would imagine so. I think both squads got to be a little disappointed in how the outcome of the game got finalized, and they're a good staff. They'll make corrections, and they won't let their ball club just falter because of what happened the previous week. They'll have their ball club ready to play at a high level, and so I'm sure disappointing to them. Anytime a conference game gets out of hand like both of ours did, it is disappointing. But there's things that can cause a game to go that way. You don't want it to happen very often, and so I think on our end of it, hopefully it doesn't. I think they feel the same way on their end of it, that they're certainly a much better football team than what showed point-wise.
This isn't something that's popped up at all this year, but this is technically the last Saturday game you guys have.
Mm-hmm.
So how does the schedule change as you enter those midweek games?
Mm-hmm.
How do you alter basically changing Saturdays and making them Tuesdays?
Yeah. Well, we got pretty good experience with that, and so, we think we've pretty much got a routine down that fits for the changing of the starting times and starting dates of games, and so I don't think it's going to bother us too much. When it can bother you is when all of a sudden, within a short stretch of time, you're maybe playing 3 games, which we've had that happen before. 3 games within a real short period of time. That can be troublesome for you, certainly trying to come off of a game, and if you get some guys banged up, they may not be out of the game, but they don't have the complete week to recover. It can be tough. Our schedule is not set up poorly that way. You know, this year it really fits pretty well in terms of us being able to have preparation time and some recovery time. You know, I think we do have one game that's where it, you know, we don't have the allotted time that you normally have in a week. But other than that, we don't have the 3 games in the week and a half or whatever it comes down to sometimes.
Did you guys approach the post-game fallout the normal way this weekend, or was there twice as much film watching to figure out exactly what went wrong?
So like you're really in front of diagnosing what happened Saturday.
As coaches?
Yeah, as coaches.
Yeah, we're pretty thorough every week. You know, we try to get into a similar routine, and you know, just you know, in dealing with your players, you know, you don't want to change everything dramatically because of one game. And I think the same thing is with your coaches. You know, you don't want to all of a sudden throw everything out the window and act like you got to start over again. We've done a lot of good things this year. We're 5-2. We'd like to be better than that, but we are 5-2, and with a chance to continue to build in our conference. And I think most teams in our conference would love to be in that situation. And so you can't overreact on something like this with your players or with your coaches. And so we pretty much stay in our routine. You can't watch very much more film than what we watch, you know, or else you start to get to where I think it becomes a negative in terms of return. And so you make some decisions when you're almost cross-eyed from watching film, and sometimes those decisions aren't real good decisions. And so, you know, I think we spend a great deal of time at this, and I think if you're in college coaching and in the sport of football, you don't have a choice, because if you don't spend the time, you don't give your kids a chance. And so I think most everybody spends the time necessary to try to make it work.
Anything else, guys? One follow-up on the schedule. How much is not having a full bye week at this point in the season been a hindrance or hurt you guys in terms of just trying to stay even health-wise?
Yeah, you know, would we like to have had a bye week a couple weeks earlier maybe? The way it played out this year, probably, you know. But you never know, you know. I think the thing that you don't feel too comfortable with is having a bye week very early in the season and then have to go on a long stretch, you know. Our bye week is coming at a time where it can be useful and it'll be needed. And, you know, and sometimes that fits for your program. Sometimes the bye week is scheduled so it doesn't fit. But it'll be welcome this year.